All right, good afternoon. It is April 25th, 2024, 1:08 p.m. We are entering continuing negotiations with IAEP. I'm interim HR Director Nikki Powell.
Are those the same things you emailed
Same
to
thing
us?
I emailed
Yeah.
to you.
I think
Okay.
we all have them, Nikki,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah.
West Marino County Administration.
Dave Porcelli, MS Chief.
Eric Gilmore, Public Safety.
Abby Bowers, County Administration.
Tamika Williams, Business Operations Manager.
Janice Floyd, Interim Deputy Director, HR.
Okay.
Chad Stimmel, IEP.
Emily Stevens, IAP.
Diamond Melvin, IAP.
Richard Anderson, IAP negotiator.
Michael Morosco, IEP.
All right.
Okay.
4,
B.
8, 19. Want to talk about those?
Yeah, before we give you our response to that, we have discovered, Mike, you want to bring them over a copy, that the governor on March 22nd signed an amendment to the statute which added bargaining units comprised of EMTs and paramedics to the exemption list for all those draconian requirements and the provisions that precluded having a public employer deduct dues.
Okay.
So we are, even though we have signed a tentative agreement on Article 4, or Article, it's Article 4.
I think it's Article 4.
Or at least that provision of Article 4, the old sections 4.04 through 4.07, we are proposing to reinsert those into the successor collective bargaining agreement. So other than that, our response to the Article 4 proposal you gave us would have been, we have a tentative agreement, but because of our proposal.
Can I keep this?
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
All right, yep. I'll
And the
keep
relevant portions are highlighted both in the first thing, the Senate summary of past legislation, and then the statute itself. Okay.
this. Yeah,
So,
that's understood. I'll get
Yeah,
that
okay.
to, Kristen is not joining us.
Understood. I know you're gonna have to run that by her to get her.
She'll, I think,
Yeah.
have the appropriate language back. So.
yeah. It's like that, everything else in what you gave us, we tentatively agreed to, but we want to reinsert those. Article 6, obviously, you
Yeah, I
said
guess
you wanted some discussion, so,
questions,
yeah,
but
okay, yeah.
let's- if you wanna do that.
Yeah. Article 8. We probably have a tentative agreement on that. I just need clarification on 8.05. You added to the existing sentence, will be granted witness duty leave with pay as required to comply with the statute. Is the intent of that language that when an employee gets a subpoena, the employee has to respond to the subpoena, and you're recognizing that you're going to pay the witness duty pay
Right,
when that happens?
right.
Okay, then Article 8 is tentatively agreed.
Okay. You want to initial that and pass it
Yes.
across, or we can wait if you want?
Yeah. I have okay written under things, but I'll just keep the one that I signed as our copy of the tentative agreement, and I'll sign yours, okay?
I'll take it and then kind of keep everything. You guys take it over? All right.
Mike, do you want to? Yeah.
Over there, okay. Oh, sorry, that was out of the blue.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
I think they were fine.
Article. Article 6, we just said, you indicated you wanted some discussion that.
Article 15, I think that we had a possible TA. I
Yeah.
know there was a discussion on Class A uniforms. We
Right, and
discussed
that's,
the
and,
cost of them.
yeah.
And then also understanding that there are Class A uniforms available for checkout. Obviously not enough to cover the entire EMS unit, but there are some in logistics available for checkout if there's a instance where they're needed.
Because based on our memory of the discussion we had in our notes, we had proposed that it be, you provide everybody who has at least 2 years of seniority, and your response to it was that the time frame in our proposal didn't work, and that you were going to let us know if there was a time frame that would work for the county.
So just based on the cost, there's not a way really, there's not a necessity to provide it to the entire department. There's really just not.
Any idea how many are available to be signed out?
Chief, do you know the answer to that? No, Cooper? I'll check with Cooper on that.
Okay,
You
all
can
right.
answer
Do we
that.
have a diverse size range?
Is Cooper there?
I would
I
guess so.
wasn't aware.
There's not a diverse size range in anything else that's in logistics, so. Right.
Okay, and when we
And
talk
there
this,
was
we'll,
some, also some discussion that you do not currently have an honor guard. So that would be something, if we were to reestablish or establish an honor guard, that would be the starting point for a Class A uniform as well.
We do have a policy on the books, an honor guard policy. It just has nothing's been done with it.
Yeah, you have a policy, you just don't have an established.
just like an established honor.
Yeah.
Is that something we were looking at doing?
Yes, absolutely.
In 1502B,
There it goes.
we're fine with, providing boots to every 2 years. The problem is, we don't agree with your language in your proposal is during the term of this agreement. We want that to be an ongoing thing. Every 2 years, employees will get boots.
We can't, we have to just renegotiate it in the next agreement. Legal confirmed that, we have to renegotiate it in the next agreement. We intend, I would say, I think
The intent is that we will continue every 2 years, yes,
Every 2
absolutely.
years, but we can
Okay.
only agree for whatever
Okay.
the term of the agreement is.
Okay, now, obviously, those were the only articles that we had the potential to, to get attention. We'll caucus and on Article 15. Now, obviously, we had a proposal for Article 10, which had a lot of new sections that we proposed. And your response has been pretty general in that you think the Fair Labor Standards Act covers everything, but the Fair Labor Standards Act doesn't address a lot of the issues in the sections we propose. So we would like you to explain what the county's objection is to those.
So I can actually tell you, like paying 2 times the rate of pay from the time, like a recall, that we're not gonna get reimbursed for that. So we don't have it in our budget to pay. FEMA will not reimburse it. We've just gone through a bunch of trainings with, it's called FROC, and it's Florida Recovery Obligation Calculation. Don't quote me on the
Okay.
acronym there, but we just did a bunch of training and we've submitted, basically what we do with FROC is we submit a bunch of stuff up front that allows us to get upfront funding
Okay.
during a storm. And they tell us what is good in our language and what is not good in our language and what we have to change. And so FEMA stance in the last couple of
Okay.
years, and this is coming out fairly new, is that you cannot have anything that in your policies that say we only pay this in a declared emergency.
Okay.
What we can have and what we do want to kind of add to this is we want to add that you would possibly be assigned to a 24-hour shift and be paid all time for the 20-hour shift abiding by the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Okay, all right.
So I guess my question then would be, because we're talking in the instance of a mandatory recall due to natural disaster, correct? So that 24-hour shift, is that a 24-hour shift of running calls, or is that 24 hours with a certain amount of stand-down time?
There's stand
Both.
down.
It could be, well, it could be.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's stand down time.
Because we already, I mean, if you're recalled and we are required to be there, you're already required to pay us for that time. So what is the,
That's correct, but FEMA will not reimburse because you're only viewed as 12-hour shifts. That's why we have to put that verbiage in there. So that if we recall you and say, hey, we need you here, but you can't leave because the storm's howling outside, you're getting paid during
Okay,
that
so
duration.
currently FEMA thinks of it as 12-hour shifts, so they don't get any,
That's correct.
any compensation.
Because
or you
your
guys don't get
schedule
any
is only 12 hours.
reimbursement.
We pay
If they-
them, we pay them for 24 hours because we're telling them they
Yeah.
have to be there.
Right, but you don't get reimbursed.
That's right.
All right.
So,
and I would be amenable to that, provided there's something in there that states that there would be some stand-down time, because 24 hours during a hurricane is
Yeah.
painful.
No, so I did 36 hours. Come on now.
We've all done it.
I just said
It
it.
doesn't mean it's a good thing.
It's not fun.
Anyway, but no, that's why we had that
So-
verbiage in there. That's why it's good, so that FEMA will do.
Okay,
the
do you
payment.
have that in a proposal?
no,
Okay.
this is my chicken scratch.
That's
okay.
why,
All right,
you know,
okay.
we've kind of been going back and
Okay,
forth.
all
I
right.
wanted to complete
All right,
that FROC
okay.
training as well, which we just completed,
Okay.
Through the state of Florida. And, so that I can discuss it with this group and then discuss it with you guys on kind of what we're looking at there and what we can and cannot put in our proposals, and understanding that some union contracts still have language
Right.
with, we'll pay you 2 times and whatnot. FEMA does not reimburse that.
Okay.
So with it not being in our budget and not knowing when we would have a disaster, that's not something we can currently agree
All
to.
right.
So the other two things in 10.04, were just providing some sort of definition for when we would institute a mandatory recall. And then the other one was that the county would provide employees on a mandatory recall with 1 meal per 12 hours. Are those 2 points things that you all are amenable to, or were we saying no to the whole thing?
We're saying no to the whole thing. Mandatory recall is operational, and it's just based on the need. We don't do it that often. It is based on the need. And then the meals, I think we try to feed you guys as much as we possibly can.
I do know the
But if
EMS
there's-
budget has it for meals during
Yeah,
disaster.
it's in our
So-
budget, but it's also what is available to us at the time. So if we commit ourselves to something and then there's nothing available to us to be able to feed you, we don't want to end up in a situation that because of some vendor or something
Yeah.
not.
I know what happened during
available,
Sally, but we have a plan to make every
Effort.
effort available to have meals ready prior to. So
That
I
is
can
the
tell you
intent.
that. I know.
Yeah.
And that's why
That was bad.
it was bad. And yes, we have addressed that situation. We think we have a plan in place for that. So
Okay, so
I understand.
there's a plan.
Yes.
There's-
Unlike last time, there is a plan. So
10.05 as well kind of ties in with that. BCC will make every effort to ensure appropriate sleeping accommodations for employees on recall.
I think Tamika can speak to that a little bit, as you guys do have sleeping accommodations.
So I believe you all were assigned to room 511, 512, and 523 for sleeping
Yes.
quarters.
Yeah.
But the
They are.
bunk rooms were for those who were inside the EOC. So we do have those rooms that we will attempt to have you all use those for sleeping quarters.
Because the bunk rooms were originally built with the intention of being for,
The EOC.
The
participants.
was it for the EOC?
Always.
We were always.
Always.
No.
Okay.
always the USA.
What about the cots? Because there was an issue during Sally where none of the.
We have our own cots now, not the crazy crappy ones. They're the actual, they're the green
Soda?
army cot. Rick, we have the green army cots. We have a pallet of those now for the building. So.
Okay, so they are available.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we are trying to ensure that we do not have a repeat of Sally.
I understand. I understand.
How about the provision for the holdovers? after they've been gone, an hour beyond the end of the shift, they won't be assigned another call. I don't know what the current policy is, but
Chief or Eric, you have to speak to that one, that's operational.
I'm sorry, I was,
Mandatory holdover.
Hey.
10:06.
That's not something
They're
we're gonna put in the
10:06.
CBA. That's an operational thing.
Yeah.
It's all dependent upon staff and the number of trucks, call lines, what's it.
yeah.
And that's, I'm not sure if you heard that.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I will say that it is a provision that we have in almost every collective bargaining agreement we have with EMS locals. There is a limit on, once you're held over beyond the end of your shift, there's a limit, time limit before another call will be assigned to employees. I mean, in recognition of the fact that, employees have lives,
I think we've repeatedly, I kind of identified that as an issue that we're dealing with. So we would really like to see something in the contract regarding that, because we had a policy, that policy was removed. And we are unfortunately back in a position where we are having people 3 and 4 hours past their off time, which can become a safety issue as well. So that is something I think we would like to hold on to for right now.
And then the remaining two, 10.07 and 10.08, having to do with overtime shifts. The employee who signed up for an overtime shift can cancel it as long as they do so at least 4 hours before the beginning of the shift. That's 10.07. If they cancel more than 3 overtime shifts in a 6-day period, be subject to restriction of overtime privileges. And 10.08, if a supervisor cancels it with less than 4 hours notice, the employee should be paid 2 hours for. If it's more than 4 hours before, no harm, no foul. Because an employee who is expecting to do an overtime shift, obviously, they've arranged their personal lives so that they will be available to work the shift. But if the shift is canceled, an hour before they're supposed to start it,
And we've had instances where an employee on overtime showed up to Walnut Hill for their overtime shift and then was called right before they clocked in and told to go home and that they were being canceled, and they had already driven an hour up there
Yeah.
and then had to drive an hour back. And that's happened a few times, so.
We'll relook at this.
all right. Now, Article 12, we know that you folks are still in the process of figuring out what you're gonna do in terms of wage increases. I just wanna point out that in our proposal, EMT's jail assignment pay is not currently in the collective bargaining. EMTs are now assigned to the jail, and we propose that they get the same jail assignment pay as paramedics. And I'm not sure if the fact that in your responses you haven't addressed that are because you don't want to pay jail assignment pay to EMTs, or whether it's just,
I don't think there's enough of them that it really makes a material difference, so on that one, and again, that was the jail budget, it's separate from EMS budget.
That's right.
Over there.
Yeah.
I would say,
do they currently get?
So the paramedics at the
EMTs
jail
do not,
receive it?
Paramedics do.
The EMTs do not receive
Okay,
it.
all
So
right.
we have, but they are both responding to the same situations and calls and are thus in the same hazard.
Right,
Or we should
and,
bow out.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't think that one's an issue, and probably why we just haven't
Okay.
talked about it
Yeah,
too much.
okay,
is
all
We
right.
just wanted to break
It's a
that up
different
again.
budget, and I don't think it's material enough to
Okay, all right.
plus his budget.
All right. Yeah, probably won't bust the budget.
There's like 3 of them.
Yeah.
Okay. We've already discussed Article 15. So then, in the proposal that you sent us, there's the duration, and obviously that's something that we'll work out then. Yeah. So that leaves us with Article 22, relief employees, where we're proposing that may cancel or reschedule shifts up to 4 hours rather than 12 hours prior to the start of the shift. And we continue to, as I said at the last session, we continue to maintain that proposal. Isn't that what
Yes.
it's for regular employees?
Yeah, and that's just to maintain consistency across the
Yeah.
board. Our full-timers have 4 hours to call out.
Right.
Or have up to 4 hours prior to the shift to call out. And so that really, we just want to maintain some consistency with that, keep it the same for everybody.
And then last but not least, the out-of-town transfers, Article 23. Which obviously we continue to propose. We think what we propose is fair. It's, protection for employees. And we've never got a specific response from you as to what you object to in it. If you provided that, perhaps when we caucus, we could, come up with a way to see if it's possible to address your concerns and still get the protections that we would like to be placed in the collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah.
The easiest way for this piece is just due to some operational changes that are about to take place, this will no longer apply.
The transfer.
Everything that you have in here regarding IFTs, transfers and all that, the way it's worded, none of this will be relevant.
Because of a new change that's coming, so we said.
That's correct. So all of this would not even be relevant to what is going to take place.
Do you have any sort of idea when that change is coming?
We do not, but it's going to be relatively sooner than later.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a change that is going to eliminate the concern?
Most of these have to do with 911 and IFT trucks. So yeah, it will eliminate what you put in writing, absolutely.
Because the main,
Yes, yes.
the main concern was especially the longer out-of-town transfers and us not having adequate staffing on that in case something happens.
Right.
So that's,
We'll take care, yes,
okay.
yes.
So Article 6, I know, I think we keep going back to this one because I feel like we're getting there, we're just, there yet.
Okay?
Seniority, county seniority defined as the employee's most recent date of hire with the county. I'm looking at your proposal.
Okay.
And I think we're good with that first sentence. That's kind of that's what county seniority is. Classification seniority, again, the first sentence, defined as the start date and employee's current classification. We're good with that sentence. So as I started looking at the rest of this, it led me to have a conversation with Chief Torcell regarding your Article 13. And I want to make sure, because we did TA Article 13, but I want to make sure that we are all on the same page. And again, this is kind of a worst case scenario thing. Article 13 is that's your reduction in force. It says when it becomes necessary to reduce the workforce, employees will be laid off according to seniority within the job classification.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you have a 20-year EMT that goes and gets their paramedic, they get promoted to paramedic, we have a reduction in force. They are the first to go according to Article 13.
If you eliminate paramedic positions, yes, that is correct.
Right. And that's what I wanted to be sure of,
Well,
that would work.
Yeah, think about
I understand obviously the issue there. Do you have a counter proposal for how that would read better for you? So that, because I get where you're going.
Well, is that what we intended? Because if it isn't what we intended, it's what we said in the proposal.
Article 13 is already in existence.
Right.
Yeah.
The reduction in force, we will need to visit that for language, I think, to make sure that we're on the same page there. Because the seniority that we were most concerned about was not the reduction in force side, it was more the shift move, the lateral moves between trucks and shifts and things like that to ensure that we are recognizing those employees that have tenure.
And that's kind of what I wanted to get to, is your intent on seniority versus what's already in the contract. And like I said, it led me to the reduction in force, which I thought, it already says that. And so that's what would be applied if we had a reduction in force. But I had some concerns based on, now we're gonna identify exactly what time in class is, and then we're gonna say, oh, sorry, 20-year employee, you gotta go.
So we will revisit the reduction in force section.
Okay. So, I'll go back to seniority then. A, that second sentence about no, that's not how it's calculated. It's calculated based on leave anniversary date. It's in Article 8 on how leave is calculated. So I think we already talked about that last time, that we weren't gonna entertain that because it's already in Article 8 and on how leave is calculated. And then, typically across the county,
So vacation calculation isn't based upon an employee's time with the county?
it is based on their full-time hire date with the county. They also have an opportunity, like if you leave the county and come back within a year, you can bridge your time, and your leave accrual seniority is only reduced by the time you were gone. So I don't think you want to give that up.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to help you out here.
We maintain all the leave we can get.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
again, trying to help you out here, that's already identified in Article 8. We don't want to add it here because then it changes the intent.
Okay.
So currently, your leave anniversary date is what we refer to as leave anniversary date, and it is your based on your full-time hire date with the county, minus any that you left and came back. If you go to relief, and you come back to full-time within a year, which we kind of got rid of some of that bouncing back and forth, but if you go to relief and you come back to full-time within a year, you're reinstated to your leave accrual minus the time you were relief. So and that kind of again addresses what you have in 3 and 4. This is all already done by county policy, kind of the way you have it here. So I don't know that there's a need to put it in the contract, because it's already county policy if maintaining the seniority for these reasons and loss of seniority for these reasons. So, and then as far as shift assignments go, we always look at operational need first, but seniority is taken into account. It's just not the first thing that's taken into account. And I can read you, I don't know if you guys refer to like PBA's seniority article at all.
It's been a while.
I'm familiar with it. So here, I think this is the scenario that we're trying to combat with this, is, there's a couple. But one of them is, okay, so we have, a vacancy, say we have a vacancy on A shift, which is day shift for a paramedic. And we have a paramedic on another shift who put in a request, say they work nights and they put in a request to go to days. And, they're qualified for that position. That paramedic has an active request in to go to days. Well, then we have a new hire that we come in and assign them to that day shift spot. So that person has no seniority, no standing, and so now this person who's been here for years is still stuck on a shift they don't want to be on, because instead of going off of seniority and allowing them to move, we have just put the new hire in the position that they wanted, when we could have put the senior employee on day shift and then put the new hire on nights. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think what then comes into play, you have to look at how long each of their counterparts have been employed, because then that's where your agency need comes in. If you put a new hire with a new hire on night shift, you can't
And
do
we
that either.
absolutely
So-
understand that. We have
To an
a
extent.
policy.
We extend.
Yeah, to an
Yeah, because I
extent.
mean, they are cleared
Because-
employees, so that
Because you're
is.
clear, we're not paying for.
Yeah, we're not paying for experience,
seniority and
so.
experience, so a paramedic is a paramedic and an EMT is an EMT. They cleared orientation and they're cleared to work anywhere in this county. So if you're not paying for seniority and you're paying for experience, then paramedic's a paramedic and EMT is an EMT.
Part of the problem, I think, is that we had, and I know that the policies are something that is a whole thing right now. We have a policy on the books, I think from, was it from the Pat days, Pat Costa? We have a policy on the books that addresses this. It hasn't been followed. I've been here for 2 years and it hasn't been followed in the 2 years that I've been here. So,
Is it a policy or
Yes.
an SOP?
I think
it's a
policy.
department policy.
Yeah.
So it's an SOP.
Well, we refer to them as policies. So if there's a differentiation that needs to be made, we can do that, but we refer to them as policies for the department. Historically, past practice has always been that if a position became available, the person, they would be opened up, supervisor would send an email, hey, this position's open, who wants it? You'd respond, person with seniority is gonna get it. And we just would like that to continue. Some continuation of that, so that that seniority is recognized. We're not trying to make a giant change to anything, but we want the seniority to be recognized somewhere. And there's not really a lot of operational things that would prohibit that, to be fair. Outside of maybe FTO positions and some vent certified medics, there's really not any other down and dirty operational reasons that can't be done. Because a paramedic is a paramedic, an EMT is an EMT. It's maybe preferential to put them with somebody with more experience, but that is a cleared person to work on the road.
So your intent then of the seniority article is really shift assignments.
It's really shift assignments. That is the biggest thing, is to give those people with seniority the first dibs on taking that spot if it becomes available. If it's offered up, it's opened up, they should be able to get it based on seniority. And if 3 people put in for it, whoever has the most seniority is the one that gets it.
All right, I think I'll do a quick recap before we caucus.
Okay.
And then I think we each have some things to talk
Yeah.
about. So Article 4, I don't see an issue. I'll send this up to Kristen Toole
Okay.
and have her
Yeah.
add back the language.
Because as long as we add back, section 4.04 through 4.07, we have a tentative agreement on Article 4.
Understood. Article 6, I've got the intent, so that helps me a little bit. Article 8, we have a TA. Article 15. You want to know how many uniforms we have in the Class A available?
Yeah. And if there is a size range, so that there would actually be a uniform available for, anybody to sign out.
Article 10, we are gonna review 1006, 1007, 1008,
Okay,
and
yeah.
the other ones we're dropping. Article 12, yeah, I didn't have a problem with the ET thing
Right,
there.
okay.
And of course, the wages, we costed this out,
Right.
and the budget everywhere is tight, so understanding that. And then 22 and 23. Yeah.
All right. Then why don't we caucus?
Are we going to the same conference room?
We're gonna need somebody to let
Well,
us
they
in.
can stay
You can
here.
stay here if you want.
Oh, all right,
Yeah, 'cause we
okay.
don't have anybody on Teams and nobody came to watch. Okay, we're back from caucus.
All right, on Article 6, we're gonna withdraw our proposal on Article 6 and counter that with the current language, which was your proposal, and adding to it one sentence that says, when a shift vacancy occurs, the position will be awarded to the most senior qualified applicant. Not break down seniority into whatever the hell the two, whichever 2 ways we had originally proposed to define it. Yeah, county seniority classification. Just seniority based upon what, time with the county.
So that's Article 6.
Yeah.
We had PBA's language, which is except under extraordinary circumstances, unit assignment shift transfers shall be made first on justifiable agency need, then seniority, then officer's preference for Article 6.
Our preference would be,
I'm not opposed to the language. If it's a justifiable need, but
isn't that what it's,
I think
said,
where we
justifiable
may,
need?
I think where we may differ is whether or not a justifiable need is new person with new person, old person with old person.
And honestly, new person with new person, we just don't want to take that liability.
What liability is it? They're an employee.
They're still,
I'm not paid to make sure my EMT knows how to fill out the paperwork, and the EMT's not paid to make sure that I know what drugs to give. They don't know anything about my protocols.
True, right?
I mean,
I think we're trying to kind of meet in the middle a little bit, this might.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I really think that's the best we can do.
Okay, obviously, we'll take that under consideration. Okay. Article 10. 10.4, we would continue to have our first paragraph of our proposal in 10.4 and add to that a provision that says that if employee is given a 24-hour mandatory recall and is no longer is not needed for the full 24 hours, they'll be released rather than required to simply sit there for the 24 hours if they're not needed for 24 hours.
I think that we maybe needed some clarification on the thing with the FROC. Is when we say a 24-hour shift, is that going to be for your process of reimbursement for FEMA, or is that going to apply to us physically being present for 24 hours?
as I understand it, is that's how it's already set up, because you guys are already set up to be present for 24 hours?
That's not in any SOP that I can find. Do you have?
So if, like Sally, we did a recall, and we told you, okay, let's use another storm. Let's say we have an impending storm this hurricane season. I just knocked, calm down, so anyway, and so it's a Cat 4, right? So we know that we know it's gonna impact us between shift swap, okay? Can't have you on the road, but we would like to do a recall to bring you into the building and have you there and ready to go after it's safe, landfall's made, and it's already out of the area. Because you're not gonna be able to come from your house into the area, lines down, flooding and all that, but you'll be ready and available. You'll be on the clock as you're at the building, waiting for the storm to pass through. That makes sense?
Yes.
That's what we're wanting, it's what we envision with that piece of it as well. We're always gonna pay you for that. The piece is FEMA will never reimburse us unless we make some mention of that for the 24 hours that you're gonna be, or you know, FEMA goes, wait, you guys only work 12 hours. So fire is easy, because fire is a 48-hour schedule, and FEMA pays that scheduled rate. But they say, well, your EMS is only 12 hours, I'm only gonna pay you for 12 hours, so.
So in the event that we are anticipating direct landfall and it makes a shift and hits Panama City,
Yes,
and we are now in this, we've been recalled stage, but
Yes.
we are no longer needed, then what occurs?
then we can either, you've been paid for the time that you were there, because we still record.
And then release.
Yeah, and then release, or render aid to neighboring counties, as you well know, may deploy over there, so,
Okay.
just to be clear, so.
And what happens when, because of the way our rotations work, you have your 2 consecutive days that you're on duty?
That's something we'll have to evaluate at that time. Depending if you're on your second day going on now into your day off, we'll have to
Well,
evaluate that, so.
Going into your second day. So
Second
if you're
day.
on day 1, you're 24,
rolling
and now
over.
you're 36.
Exactly.
So that would be,
And that would be per incident as it happens in an event, but the time that we required you to be there and asked you to be there, you would be paid through that duration, so.
would the verbiage up to 24 hours satisfy your requirement for FEMA reimbursement?
That's,
I don't think so. That's our concern.
Okay.
Because here's what happened, in previous storms, we did not get full reimbursement for EMS because, it never mentioned that you guys would ever work a 24-hour shift, period, anywhere, and we only got paid for the 12-hour. Even though,
We
That
get paid
happened,
for
yeah.
your hours work that we showed
Yeah,
that
when
you
you were
were
down,
doing something.
So wouldn't you need to have a reference to the 24-hour mandatory recall in the collective bargaining agreement?
That's-
If FEMA questions whether, you know what I mean?
Well, I think that's what we're doing.
That's what-
that's what we wanted, that's why we're wanting to add that in there, so
So are
that.
you providing
Okay.
verbiage for how you want that to look?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good, good.
Okay.
All right,
All right,
all right.
So,
Okay.
just to make sure I've got the right notes, we are keeping our first paragraph. You are gonna provide us verbiage for what you wanna add about the 24 hours.
So that you can get FEMA reimbursement,
And then we are gonna go ahead and drop
the rest of.
the rest of
Yeah.
our 10.4.
Yeah.
We're just gonna keep that first paragraph.
And we are going to withdraw 10.5.
Okay. Okay.
In 10.6, we are, currently we said that there would be no new assignments assigned after 1 hour. We're proposing to increase that to 2 hours, which is what used to be the policy here. After 2 hours beyond the end of the shift, they were not given another call. So we're proposing to change in our proposal, 1 hour, we're proposing to change that to 2 hours, which is the way it always used to be here.
I think our issue with these 3, 6, 7, and 8 is they're operational in nature, and we're not inclined to want to put those into the bargaining unit. Now, we do agree, and
Yes,
we want to eventually go back to having regular meetings, and we would discuss this stuff in all of our operating processes and procedures as we go forward. But we're not inclined to want to put them into the CBA.
Understanding there's some operational things there, because those have been kind of arbitrarily removed in the past, we are inclined to maintain that, as it is a safety issue all around, and it is not uncommon. Manatee County, as an example, they demobilize an hour before, and they are not subject to,
That's not, she was just talking about 10.7 and 10.8.
you're talking the mandatory overcall holdover, right?
No.
I'm sorry.
No,
6, 7, 8.
6, 7, and 8.
6
So,
is holdover.
That's what I'm.
7 and 8 are canceling overtime, overtime.
Okay, I'm sorry, my
Yeah,
apologies.
I knew what
7,
you were saying.
ten point oh seven for the overtime accountability. The problem with how it's currently being done is that they are not able to cancel that shift.
Correct.
So it's creating an issue. If I sign up for an overtime shift and I am sick, there's not anything there to really protect the employee.
What happens currently when someone has accepted an overtime shift and they actually have, and they're sick, so they can't work? What happens now?
they get disciplinary
They can be
action.
disciplined.
I think, I hope, it's a pattern of doing that, not
It
just
is
one
not.
time.
It's not.
All right, well, we'll look at that.
Okay.
But you also have the option, correct me if I'm wrong, of finding somebody to take the shift for you, and then there's no issue.
Yeah, and if
Why do I
they're
have
able to do that,
if I'm working
yeah,
an
yeah.
overtime shift, if I don't have to do that if I'm working a regular shift? I can call out sick. I'm sick, I'm sick. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, yes, I heard that part.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I mean, I don't
when
need,
you're
I don't see the point of
sick,
me, if I'm sick, kind of 4 hours before my shift, to call somebody to take an overtime shift, I'm sick.
Well, that would go back to the shift swap conversation that y'all had.
Like,
I think you are leaving something, but.
are you talking about like an actual shift swap
That's correct.
Then it doesn't count.
as opposed to
But I mean, but it's
overtime?
still an operational thing. It's something that we don't want to put, we're not inclined to want to put operational things into the CBA whatsoever. Regardless
Calling
of
out-
the fact that you have
Calling out of your
other,
overtime shift because you're sick or for whatever reason, is not operational. It's no different than, it already says that
Right.
to call out of your shift,
Right.
you have to call
Right.
out 4 hours.
And-
And we talk about that as a regular shift on my shift.
And let's clarify one thing, since these are clearly working conditions, the conditions under which you can cancel a shift, and what happens when you do so, or the fact that nothing, that's clearly a working condition, which is exactly what a mandatory subject of bargaining is. So, those are legitimate proposals dealing with issues that are appropriate in a collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah. But hold on, they're saying these already exist, we don't want
Is it already SOP?
to. Yeah, so, yeah. Is that Pat's SOP for 10-6?
10-6?
Yeah, you said there was a procedure for that one?
There
They're
used to
talking
be,
about 10,
but it was unilaterally changed.
There,
That
so,
was,
It's not.
this is the holdover, right?
Is that the bubble?
That's a holdover,
No,
yeah.
well,
Okay.
not the bubble. We're
Okay.
not proposing bringing,
Okay.
we're not proposing
Okay.
that. So that policy, there was initially a Pat Costick policy.
Right.
And then with union cooperation, Billy Schiff wrote a policy. And that was the policy that changed it from a 4-hour holdover to a 2-hour holdover. That was implemented and then it was removed under the current administration.
Removed altogether.
Correct. So there is currently no policy pertaining to
Okay.
mandatory holdover.
Let us go back and look at these again.
Okay, all
Okay.
right. Article 22, we maintain our position on that. On Article 23, we're going to put that on hold pending additional information about the upcoming changes that would affect that.
Do you have a timeline for when we will be hearing about what that change is?
Dave, you had spitball, timeline on.
Maybe 60 days.
60 days?
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll put it on hold.
Okay.
Article 15, for the, how many uniforms are in
Oh, yeah.
logistics?
Yeah.
There are roughly 60 uniforms. The smallest size for females is a 34, the biggest size for females is a 52, the smallest size for males is a 14 and a half, and the biggest size for males is a 24.
So he's got a wide range of uniforms, to include
Okay.
EMT and
Okay.
paramedic patches as well. The blue, because the white's for supervisors, so, and these are, go ahead.
Not the same thing?
Yeah.
no.
We're talking
talking
about
about Class Bs,
Class
right?
A.
How about Class A?
Okay. So
With the
undershirts for the
coats.
coat?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Do
what
we
he's.
still want to make the proposal?
Yes.
Okay. We would propose to add language in 1502 that employees may use their annual uniform allowance to purchase Class A uniforms.
I think that's how fire does it.
Yeah.
Unless you're on honor guard, they'll buy
Correct.
your.
Well, and that's another thing I was
And
gonna
that's
ask.
something-
But also to prevent what happens on fire, because we get the new guy that comes in and he spends all his money on a jacket,
For
right?
sure,
You know what
and you don't have
I'm
any
saying?
uniform.
And then now you don't have your day-to-day.
And
We wanna make
we
sure.
recognize
There-
the obligation for employees to maintain their regular day-to-day uniforms
I
remains. We're not,
Yeah.
yes.
I want to say that there was a policy, SOP, or there was some provision somewhere that maintained that you had to have a certain number of uniforms before you were allowed to
And that makes
use
sense.
the funds to purchase that. So as long as there is an option, if we can have the Class A uniforms added to GALs, and that way they are available for purchase, then that is fine. Now, if we need to make some kind of provision for you must have a certain number of pants, shirts, polos, et cetera, then that's fine, I think.
Definitely
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah, I don't want somebody just
Yeah.
burning their whole
Right.
annual
Yeah.
on them.
Unless you
now
And
wear
then they go,
Class A every day.
hey, I got, my boots are torn, or my pants
Not
are,
paid for.
yeah, exactly, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, we, and
And it-
We fully understand that. That's not, the intent is only that if they actually have
All the necessities.
allowance money
Yes.
left
For their
over,
uniform.
and then fully, the anticipation is no one would have enough excess to purchase the complete class A uniform in 1 year. I mean, 1 year they might be able to get a shirt, you know, another year they, yeah, you're
What
right.
they do, what they have is different.
Are you required to have at least a Class B shirt right now?
Um,
Is it something that everybody tries to maintain? A long sleeve, just a nice dress shirt, you know? No.
All we have
Everybody's
is
got
the
working
polos and the
uniforms.
t-shirts.
And that's
so
it.
you can purchase them, but they have never truly been required.
Okay.
So some people do not have them, and I think it's much like with the Class A situation, the stockroom has them for loan, and so
And you
people
come get when you
utilize
need it.
that
Yeah.
rather than purchasing them. So that's never been a really consistent requirement.
How does fire do their honor guard uniforms? Is that an allotment from the county that pays
That's
for
correct.
the
It's,
uniform?
it's a, so they just changed their uniforms 2 years ago. And what they do is, not all the money is spent in uniforms at the end of the years, you will.
And it goes to honor guard?
Right,
That's
so
what
if
it is in this.
we say, okay, this amount, we'll take 5,000 allotted to the honor guard and try to get them built out to be ready to go.
Okay.
And that's what they did, so.
Okay.
Everybody else who gets a Class A beyond that is, you know, you're on your own, or if you've got any left over, you must maintain this level of uniform, period. And then beyond that, if you want to spend like buy a shirt this year.
Yeah. Pants next
gloss-
year.
High gloss shoes or something like that,
Yeah.
so.
And I think that that's appropriate.
I think that's
reasonable,
fair.
yeah.
Then
But-
we'll then
yeah.
look at adding their wording into that, then I guess on the next one, or?
Their honor guard's not covered in their contract,
No.
but I would assume that that is your intention
Right.
with the EMS honor guard, should that become established.
If we did a full EMS honor guard, then we would have no problem outfitting them.
Yeah.
But yeah, and no, fire has just so many people in honor guard, it's not like we got a 30-member person, so
Yeah.
Right.
what's the appropriate amount of people?
I thought we were using the, and if I may be wrong, I
Go ahead.
thought we were using the excess money to buy boots.
I was waiting when somebody was gonna bring that up, but I'm just listening because,
Were we doing excess money for boots, that's right, for the
We were.
2 years?
because you gotta remember, we only have a certain amount allotted, and I can tell you that the amount of money that we have for uniforms in there is not gonna touch. We haven't even identified what a Class A uniform is. Nobody's defined what is a Class A, because I can tell you I've done multiple variations of a Class A, and that's not gonna touch.
What is the whatever uniform you and Stevens were in at Lieutenant Jackson's funeral, I believe, is what we would be considering the Class A, which would be similar to
That's
fires.
over $800.
Right, and we know it's not gonna cover that.
How many people is on the EMS honor guard? I mean,
No.
We don't have one.
We don't have
We
an
don't
honor
have
guard
one.
right now. We have a policy for an
Yeah.
honor guard, we don't have an honor guard right now.
How many people will be on the honor guard?
It's 4, I believe.
4, 6, 8, I mean, there's, I don't know how many
And
Cal Fire
alternate.
has, but I mean, we don't need 30 people on ours. I mean, we're not we wouldn't be utilized as much as fire is, I mean,
You only,
for sure.
at minimum, what I've seen EMS do is stain guard the casket.
Right.
And there's not really a lot of procedural stuff like fire has during the procession and everything, but anyway, so.
And for those, and I'm asking questions because I don't
We're
understand.
just
don't
spitballing
know.
here, yeah.
So will it be like an application for who, or is it just whoever who top forward, first forward volunteers honor guard? How does it work for honor guard?
Well, the bottom line is you're asking us, and it's them you should be asking,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to see, maybe we have uniforms that fit 4 people already.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll pick those 4. You bid, you bid.
Yeah.
So the
That may not be
qualification
the
is.
I
route
mean, it
we
would
go with
definitely,
that.
the honor guard is something, I think that most of the people here it's definitely something that you either want to do or you don't want to do.
That's correct.
So
It's
if
either-
you put that out there and said, hey, we need 6 people, 4 people for an honor guard, the
And we'll
4
see.
people or 6 people that respond to that are going to want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be like, well, yeah, I think it would be pretty cool to go do it. It's-
Because I think we got 60 uniforms somehow, 60
Sorry.
uniforms, I think, total.
Nobody's sleeping now.
So we may have a full set for whoever wants to do it, we may.
What was, I mean, since there's been discussion of,
So, yeah. But
So based on what they just proposed, it wouldn't work because we wouldn't be left over. And my budget is enterprise, theirs
I know.
is general. Those are 2 completely different stories. There's a lot, every time you bring something up, there's 2 more
there's
questions.
2 more
to go
questions to go with it. So we'll have to evaluate it. Let's look at it. The procedure. There's a SOP for
EMS Thunderbird, right?
Yes.
Correct.
There,
Let's look that up,
it's,
let's see what that says.
it's not gonna provide you with,
It's not gonna give us
an
answers.
abundance of
I just want to see
information.
what it says, and then we can go from there and try to look at it, so.
Well, bottom line is we're gonna have to set up another date. I mean, obviously, we're getting close to the end time today, so we're not getting the final tentative agreement on the entire contract today.
So I'll recap real quick then.
All right.
Article 4, again, I'm gonna send that up to Kristen. We
Yeah.
should be pretty good there.
Yeah.
Article 8, ETH. Article 6 will be sending back with the PBA language.
Yeah.
Article 10, Ms. Bowers is gonna revisit. Article 15, we'll look at the honor guard
Yeah.
information to see if we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
any additional language to propose. I think at this point, we're standing by no on 22.
Yeah.
And then you guys have 23 on hold.
On hold, yeah.
So,
All right.
Honor guard and the potential to put it, to be available to purchase on your own.
We'll look at it,
Yeah.
we'll look
Yeah.
at it.
No, for that, yeah, because our proposal was only that you can use the uniform allowance to purchase a
Correct,
Class A
okay,
uniform.
okay.
Right. Yeah. So I suppose the way we always do, we'll send you dates that work for us, and you, or you send, usually you send us dates that your team is available, and then, okay,
Yeah.
and then we will let you know. All right.
any other questions,
No, I think
concerns?
for now, I think they're good.
yeah, no, I think we're good.
All right.